Next step is to actually try to trim out this column here, because this is actually going to be visible more than likely. So what I decided to do was cut a piece of 1x6 here, and I put little slots into it to help it bend towards the contour of the van, just to hide this seam here and sort of blend in this column. And I want to be able to remove this if I need to, because there is some wiring in here for the door and stuff. Okay, so as we know, upholstery is not really my strong suit, but as long as you don't look too closely, I do like the color, and it was a heck of a lot easier than trying to cut custom trim pieces to be all weird angles and try to fit these weird sections of the van. So I really wanted something with blue in it. I've always wanted a van with some blue and never really been able to do it in the past. The other thing that you might notice is the ceiling is a little bit wavy because I used that lightweight 1/8 inch Luan. It looks a little bit better now. I was able to fix a few spots, and then painting it all white made it look a little bit more continuous, I guess. But, you know, it's a surf fan. I think it's okay if there's a little bit of wavy ceiling. At least that's what I'm telling myself. These here are gonna stay exactly as they are. I want to keep the ceiling panels white, but I figured if I were to actually paint these support strips here, this 1/4 inch birch, white as well, it would just be too much white. It would be blindingly white in here. So I want to keep this as the natural wood color and just go with that birch. The same for the little panel that is on the door as well that I did, just to have a little bit of a natural wood look. So I spent most of the morning today mounting the first solar panel to the roof. I didn't really film it much. It wasn't really the most glamorous process, but got the first panel on there. The second one is sitting inside. Unfortunately, Home Depot did not have enough of that galvanized steel L bracket that I used to mount it to the rails that I did a while back. So I gotta try to go to a different store and try to find some more. Part of me, though, is kind of considering maybe just leaving one panel on there for now. I do technically have a second panel. It's in the house. But, you know, I could just keep it in there and see how it goes with just 250 watts of solar. That trip to New Orleans made me realize how much I've been missing out on over the years by not really having a DC to DC charger. I never really had one in a previous van aside from the High Ace for like a month or so, but then I ended up selling it. And having the DC to DC charger is a game changer. I mean, the batteries were 100% full basically that entire trip, at least in terms of keeping the fridge running and, you know, keeping the vent fan going and just charging my phone and that sort of thing. Obviously, once I get the 12-volt air conditioner installed in here, which will hopefully be in the next video, I'm gonna probably need as much power as I can possibly get, and at that point it will be time to probably put the second solar panel on the roof, but we'll see, you know. Not really a rush. The biggest thing was just getting the hole cut for the solar glands, getting the wire run, and getting it all hooked up, and it's working great. So it's time to move on to the next project. For me, I think that's going to be trying to start building this closet that I've been talking about for basically forever since I started building this van, and I have a ton of leftover parts. So my goal is to try to use as much of the leftover scrap wood that I can. I don't really want to have to go and buy multiple sheets of plywood. Plywood is very expensive. So the good news, I was able to use all leftover scrap wood to build this. Everything was just pieces that I was otherwise probably just gonna have to cut up and throw away. So that was pretty cool. The sides were just leftover ceiling panel pieces and little cutoffs from the ceiling when I did that. And then the framing is just leftover 1x4s that I had for trim that I didn't end up using. The bad news is that I don't necessarily love how it's turned out. I mean, it's okay, I guess, but I just, part of me really prefers using the cross dowel method. Some of you guys know that I'm a big fan of that method. Lex taught me that many years ago. And for van builds in particular, being able to use 1/2-inch plywood and make those perfect 90-degree joints and then just kind of put it all in there, take it apart, put it back together, take it apart, put it together again. You're not dealing with wood glue and nailing little pieces in, and this thing I messed up a couple of times, had to redo it, and it's hard. If you make a mistake with this sort of style, you basically have to start from scratch. So I don't know, I think there's a lot of benefits to the cross dowel method. I just didn't want to spend 150 or 200 bucks on a couple sheets of plywood, and then I needed cross dowels as well. It was going to get expensive when I had all these extra parts lying around that I could just easily use instead of letting them go to waste. Guitar and air fryer, those are the only things that matter, and surfboards, but we'll get there eventually. Definitely coming along in here. Feels like it's starting to turn into a home a little bit. Love that everything is basically painted now 100%. Might not have to paint anymore. I hate painting, so I'm looking forward to not having to do that, aside from maybe a few touch-up things. Closet is installed. I actually mounted the closet to the 1x6 and 1x4s that I have screwed into the sides of the van with rivet nuts. So it's essentially just mounted to the walls of the van and also screwed into the floor as well. And then I have this shelf coming off of it, also screwed into a 1x4 that is screwed into the walls of the van with rivet nuts. So this thing is very sturdy overall. I might have overbuilt the shelf a little bit, but I can't have my air fryer flying around or, collapsing on me and getting broken or anything like that. I don't know what I would do without that thing. Got the desk installed and put the chair in here this morning along with my computer just to kind of test fit. I still have a lot to do in here, but it's at the point where I could theoretically move in, and I just got to get that last cabinet piece mounted to the floor, and I'm probably going to mount it to the bed as well, and then my fridge sits on top of that. But that's just going to go how it was when I was on my trip to New Orleans, except now it's white and it's actually painted and it looks a little bit better. But I'll get that installed at some point, and then I need to use the space underneath the bed for the next big project. I'm going to be mounting an undermount air conditioning unit, a 12-volt air conditioner. That will be the next video, and I'm going to probably try to do it at some point today. This is like our last manageable temperature day. It's starting to get hot. I'm sure you can tell I'm like dying in here right now, and it's only like 8 o'clock in the morning. So I want to just try to get as much of it done in the mornings before it gets too hot, and hopefully I can tackle it all today, but that'll be part of the next video. And then the last step will be just like all the little finishing touches in here. There's so many little things that I want to fix up. I want to definitely improve the storage setup underneath the bed, so whether that's building some suspended shelves for my surfboards and maybe some spots for clothes. I'm realizing that if I use my closet for the guitar, I'm not going to have a lot of room in there for clothing. And then the space underneath where the guitar goes, and this little gap, is going to be for my camera bag and just other camera gear and stuff like that. So I'm going to have to figure out where all my stuff is going to go in here, and that's going to entail just doing little cabinet projects and just sort of making things up. So I lied. I'm definitely going to have to paint again at some point in the future, but at least not for a week or so. I got to figure out what I'm going to do for the window cover on the side window area. Obviously there's not a window there, but I originally built this like 1/4-inch plywood thing, and it came out absolutely terribly. I absolutely hate it, so I ended up just scrapping it entirely. I want to do something cloth, kind of similar to the rear window covers that I bought to cover up those rear door panels. But the problem is that this van, the 118-inch wheelbase Promaster, has a very unique door size. It is smaller than the 136 and the 159, and I didn't realize that. I actually bought a window cover for that side door thinking, oh, this will fit perfectly, and then it didn't fit, and I thought, oh, they must have sent me the wrong one. So I reordered it and returned it and reordered it thinking, okay. And then on the second one I was like, wait a second, these both don't fit, and then I looked it up and I realized that the Promaster 118 has a much smaller door, which makes sense because it is a shorter van. But the problem is that you can't find pre-made window covers for the 118. They basically don't exist. So I'm going to have to create something myself. I have a bunch of leftover Thinsulate, and then I have a bunch of magnets as well. So that's going to be a project for another day. I'm not ready to tackle that right now. But just like, little things like that. And then as I'm living in here, I'm certainly going to pick out other random things that I'm going to want to do and little updates that I'm going to want to make. That's just part of living in a van. But that'll all be part of a future video. The next one is the focus, and that is getting the air conditioner installed. It is hot as heck here, as I said, and I am ready to get that done. Thank you guys so much for watching and for following along. I'll talk to you all again soon.